and came hours after President Trump vowed to hit Iran very hard, ending a days-long pause in fighting between the two sides.
Last week, oil momentarily crossed $100 again. It quickly dipped back into the 80s when Trump announced a ceasefire. Iran almost immediately broke it, and now oil is on its way back up again. By the time this video gets back from the editor and I get it in front of you, that number will have moved again. But what's inevitable is the impact it's having on your mortgage, and not how you think. And Fed Chair Kevin Warsh will not be able to stop it. Now, if you have extra cash sitting in your checking account at the end of each month, this is going to be specifically important to you, because the most responsible sounding thing you can do with it might be the most costly move you could make, because every mortgage in America is getting an overhaul. Let's start with Kevin Warsh holding rates at last week's meeting. Though 3 of his own regional presidents voted to raise them, he held anyway. He stood at the podium and said this: "There is no soft inflation target. There is only a target, and it is 2%. He's taking a tough stance on inflation. And then he basically said, America has to be patient. 5 years of high inflation can't be cured in 9 weeks, or by 1 month of modest price decreases, he said. Meaning that the 3.5% number everybody celebrated 2 weeks ago, Warsh is telling you inflation is worse than what they've been saying. But is he being straight with us? I'll come back to that. Meanwhile, the war is back on. Trump is now out to give Iran a real beating. And everyone is now wondering, again, how is this going to impact gas prices? Because gas is already noticeably higher than before this all started. We thought we were returning to normal when the strait opened back up, but not so fast. The thing that drove gas prices up in the spring, it's back. And it isn't just at the pump, considering everything in this economy relies on petroleum. So when petroleum goes up, everything goes up, even mortgages, or not. And I'll get to that, because you're going to see how a war on the other side of the earth, your mortgage, and the Fed's next move are all intertwined and about to land on your front porch. You know, it was just a few weeks ago, I walked you through the new chairman's problem with the inflation number. He'd rather use something called a trimmed mean. And I covered that then in depth, so I'm not running it again. I'll put a link to that video in the description for you though. But in a nutshell, instead of measuring every price you pay, he'd rather chop off the biggest movers on both ends and measure whatever's left in the middle. Well, guess what's at the top end right now? Gas, groceries, the stuff that you buy every day. And here's what that does to the numbers. You hear everybody quoting inflation at 3.5%. The one he prefers reads closer to 2. Same economy, same scorecard, just different scores. But here's the math that actually matters right now. Every mortgage has 2 rates. The one printed on your statement and the real one, your rate on the statement minus inflation. Say your mortgage rate is set at 3% and inflation is running at 4. In that scenario, your real rate is -1. Your real mortgage rate, in real terms, is negative. The economy is paying you in purchasing power to borrow that money. Now that's not a theory, that's subtraction, basic math. The dollar you hand the bank today in 2026 is a smaller dollar than the one they handed you in 2021, like by 22%. You see, the mortgage payment stays the same, but the purchasing power of it shrinks underneath. That's how inflation works. It reduces your purchasing power. And as of right now, that's happening at 3.5% annually per the government, meaning you don't have to use the government's number for any of this. It's likely better and more realistic if you don't, because there's another number, the real one, the one that shows up in your life every day. Here's what I mean. The $5 footlong at Subway is a $6 6-inch now. Same shop, half the sandwich. More money, more than double per inch. That would be like a little over 100%. Or take your kid to Five Guys like I did last week. 2 burgers, 2 fries, 2 Cokes. See if you get out under $50 for fast food burgers. I mean, they'll tell you annual inflation is running at 3.5%. Do the math on your favorite Starbucks. I'm tracking about 3.5% per quarter. Remember when a $5 Starbucks gift card would actually buy you a latte? That wasn't that long ago. Whatever you honestly believe inflation is running at, take your mortgage rate, then subtract that number. Whatever's left is your real mortgage rate. Here, I'll explain that in real dollars. Say you owe $300,000. That's the balance of your mortgage, and you owe it at 3%. And this works for whatever your mortgage rate is, by the way. But let's just say yours is 3%. If inflation is at 4%, you're at a -1. That's $3,000 a year, $250 a month. If inflation is at 5%, you're at a -2% on your mortgage rate, $6,000 a year, $500 a month. Now, that's not a check in the mail. Nobody's depositing $500 into your account every month. What's happening is the size of what you owe is shrinking against everything else you buy every month, automatically, whether you're paying attention or not. Look, it's a shame they don't teach this in school. And because they don't, this is such a foreign concept for so many to grasp. And the tragedy here is that your ability to understand this is in direct proportion to how hard you must work and for how long. It's like this. Say you had $100 under your mattress this time last year, and the Fed just announced that inflation is running at 4%. If you look under your mattress today, you still have that $100 in what's called nominal value. By name only, nominal, meaning it still reads $100 on the bill, but it has a new real value. What does it really buy today? $96 worth. $100 nominal value, $96 real value. 4% inflation robbed you of $4 in real value. Now, let's say you borrowed $100, interest-free, just to make the math simple, from a friend a year ago. Today, you still owe him $100 in nominal value, but in real value, you owe $96. That 4% inflation still stole $4 of real value, but it didn't steal it from you. It wasn't your money. It stole it from your friend who lent you the money. It was their money. Inflation, it's an equal opportunity money destroyer. It destroys your money just the same as the money you borrow. So you owe $4 less in real value to your friend, even though you never made a payment to him. Indirectly, inflation did. Inflation made that payment on your behalf. Inflation, it robs the lender, it rewards the borrower. Now, let's say inflation went unchanged. This time next year, say we're still looking at 4%. Inflation would have stolen another $4 in real value from your lender friend. And it'd do it again the following year, and the year after that, and the year after that. The longer you take to pay back the nominal value, the less you will owe in real value. Now, apply that math to your mortgage. And this is happening right now, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you agree with it or not. Every year, over the last several years, inflation has been paying off somewhere between 2 to 8% in real value of your mortgage. Inflation, it offsets your mortgage interest. Here's how this math works. If your mortgage is at 3%, inflation is running at 4%, your mortgage is canceled out. 3% of inflation cancels out 3% of your interest. And that leaves you with 1%, an extra 1% applied to the real value of your principal. So over a 30-year loan, given inflation were constant, it didn't change, it would pay off 30% of the real value of your mortgage. Technically 26% if you're an engineer type. So the longer you take to pay off the mortgage, the more inflation pays off the real value for you. Conversely, the faster you pay off the nominal value of your mortgage, the more you pay in real value. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at what big business does. You can count the debt-free companies in the S&P 500 on one hand. 13 years ago, there were 24. They're all carrying debt, massive amounts of it. And every one of them could write a check tomorrow and clear that debt. They could clear the books, but none of them do it. They're not being reckless. They've got the cash. They just know what cheap, long-term debt is worth in an economy like the one that we live in. It's why you must think of your house like a business and run it like one, and then defend it like your home. And if you want some help with that, you can meet me at protectmyhome.inc. Now, with all that said, there may be more real value to you in being debt-free. Owning your home free and clear, that may give you the type of peace of mind that 1% can't buy. And I get it. And if that's you, don't listen to me. But the question does become, at what point is your peace of mind for sale? Is it worth 2%, 4%, 6% annually? If the Iran war drags on, that may be a real question you'll have to ask yourself soon. Will we be at war for the remainder of your existing loan term? Doubt it, but that still might not change the reality of the question. Here's what I mean. No, I don't think we'll be at war for the next 30 years. The war ends. Oil comes down, the pressure goes away, but something else doesn't. And this is the part I can't prove. I'm just a Marine who buys houses. But here's what I think happens. Kevin Warsh is standing at a podium right now somewhere talking tough. No soft target, 2%. This Fed will not waver. But you got to ask yourself, how did he get that job? Because Powell was pushed out for one reason. He wouldn't cut rates. The president said so, out loud, over and over and over. And Warsh, for most of his career, he was the hawk in the room, the guy warning about inflation when nobody else was. Then, in the last couple of years, he softened, started sounding a lot more open to cutting rates. And that's when he got the call. So I'll let you decide which Kevin Warsh shows up 18 months from now. Because here's the math that I think will make the decision for him. Something he can't stop. Because this locomotive was moving full steam ahead before he got the job. You see, this country owes $39 trillion. The interest alone runs about $88 billion a month. $1 trillion a year. That's more than we spend on defense, more than Medicare. The only thing bigger is Social Security. 4 years ago, that interest bill was less than half what it is today. We've been distracted. The war is the story everybody's covering. But the war will end. This debt thing, it doesn't. And there are only 3 ways out of a hole like this. We raise taxes enough that people riot, or we cut spending enough that people riot, or we inflate it away. 2 of those end careers. So there's only one option left. Let inflation run hot for a stretch and the debt shrinks in real value, in real terms. Same trick that I just showed you with your mortgage, except run by the Treasury at national scale. We've done it before, after World War II. Debt was over 100% of the economy, exactly like today. And they didn't pay it off. They inflated it down. Took about a decade to do. I've walked through that whole playbook here before. Links in the description for that video too. But here's what that means for you. When the only option left is inflation, somebody loses and somebody wins. Now we all know who loses, the lender. And now you know who wins, the borrower. And the Treasury knows this too, and they're already the biggest borrower in history, which means the same thing that's shrinking your mortgage is shrinking their debt, and vice versa. And they're the ones, though, who decide how it runs. So if you're sitting on a 30-year fixed, you're positioned in the same way they are. They didn't just leave themselves one option, they left you one too. Theirs is the only way out of the hole. Yours, it's the only way to keep up. So here's my read, and it's just my read. The war ends, oil settles, and right about the time inflation should be cooling off, the debt math forces the Fed's hand. Rates come down and inflation picks up right where the war left off. Different cause, same direction. That's why I don't think this is a 2-year window. I think it's the environment you're going to be living in for a long stretch of your loan. And if I'm right, the question isn't whether to pay off your mortgage faster. It's this. If you're holding a 30-year loan at a fixed rate in an economy that punishes lenders and rewards borrowers, your mortgage may be the single best positioned thing on your balance sheet for that type of environment. So why would you rush to get rid of it? Why rush to pay it off if it's paying you to keep it? Meaning there are other places that have historically outrun a fixed 3 or 4% return over a long stretch. Ownership in businesses, gold, land, things you can put your hands on, property that pays you rent. Now, I'm not your advisor. I don't know your balance sheet or your health or your timeline, because all of those matter. The move here, though, isn't to chase a return. The move is to stop assuming the house is automatically the best place for your discretionary cash. For a very long time, it has been for a lot of people. On the arithmetic right now, though, it may not be. But hey, if you've got no interest in that, if none of that matters because you just want your home paid off and the deed in a drawer, I meant what I said. If being debt-free is how you sleep at night, pay it off, really. You'll get no argument, you'll get no judgment from me, either way. Just make it a decision, an educated one, not a reflex. Now, if you are struggling to make the payment every month, none of this is for you. Your problem isn't where to put spare money. It's that there isn't any spare money. Different conversation, different answers, and nothing I just said applies. But if your mortgage payment is just another line item in your monthly overhead, it's covered, you're not stressed over it, and you're just looking for the best place to invest what's left, now we can talk. There's two things to run. One, find your real rate. Take the rate on your statement and subtract whatever you honestly believe inflation is running at. Not what they tell you, what you actually paid at the counter. Is it negative? Then time is working on your side of that loan, and every extra payment that you make towards it is actually giving it less time to work for you. Two, ask the better question about the extra money. Not, should I pay down the house? Ask, where does this dollar earn more than my rate over the next 10 years? And can I get it back if I need it? Both halves, two parts to that. Can it earn more and can I get it back? Because look at what last week just put on the table. A 10-year treasury is paying 4.65% right now, backed by the United States government. You can sell it any day the market's open. Prepaying a 3% mortgage pays you 3%, and you can't get it back without borrowing at 7. So here's where you land. The Fed held, 3 of Warsh's own people wanted to raise, the bond market raised anyway. Oil's climbing again, and the war is going to be longer. None of that touched the rate on your loan, and that's the whole point. You can keep treating that mortgage as the last thing standing between you and being finished. If that's what lets you sleep, that's a real answer, and I'll defend it. Or you can look at the arithmetic. Decide the payment is just overhead and put the next dollar somewhere without a speed limit on it. Both are defensible. What isn't defensible is doing it on autopilot because somebody told you in 1994 that all debt is bad. And that's why I pulled this out here for you to watch next. Because you can do everything right. You can lock the rate, you can hold the line, you can follow every rule you are handed and still watch somebody holding the identical asset pull away from you. That's not luck, and it's not hustle. It's structural. Run your house like a business. Defend it like your home. God loves you, and so do I. Take care.